For the past several years, we've had to endure wasted time and nonsense in the media and political landscape over Russia conspiracies. And it was all nothing, literally nothing, made up nonsense for years. How frustrating. Feels like we wasted all of our time was wasted talking about Russia. Now that that's over, you'd think we'd be able to move on, but we can't, because now the Democrats want to investigate Trump over crimes he may have committed during Russiagate. Look, I get it, man. Maybe he did something wrong, but I'm just so over this. Can you please get back to legislating and doing your jobs instead of whinging over having lost in 2016? Why is this a thing? Well, apparently they want to impeach Trump over what he may have done. But most people don't care and don't want this to happen. Not only is Russia an obstruction and not a top issue for most voters, most people have plainly stated they do not want Trump to be impeached. Now, a lot of people do want Trump out. Great, that'll happen at the ballot box. And that's the way it should happen, not impeachment. So why are the Democrats doing this? Honestly, I can't tell you definitively. What I can say, though, is I think they fear this may be their only chance to play whatever last-ditch card they have against Trump. Can they go after him on policy? Probably not. They've been chasing after the far left. All these policies, they're fractured. Moderates and far left, fractured. We know it, okay? We can see the fighting between Pelosi and the squad. So what do they have? Hail Mary pass. Okay, impeachment. Only way you're going to beat Trump in 2020 because of all the advantages he has. There's no policy position they could take that would win, especially when they continually embrace the far left. With now Bernie Sanders bringing on Linda Sarsour as a campaign surrogate. They've lost it. But AOC is also calling for impeachment. Here's the thing. According to one report that I had read in the past, I don't have it pulled up, they said the reason the Democrats took the House in 2018 was because Trump's voters are not your typical Republicans, and they only came out for Trump. They didn't come out and vote in 2018. But in 2020, they will come back out for Trump. What that means? They're going to check R across the board, which will result in Republicans sweeping and potentially taking back the House. Now, there is some fear due to a wave of Republican resignations and retirements, they might not be able to do it. But the chance is still there. A good chance that Trump's base will elect these Republicans, in which case the Democrats have to act now, even if Americans don't want them to. Congratulations! You're taking an unpopular action, which will probably hurt you come 2020. But here's the thing. If the Democrats believe they're going to lose the House, then they don't care if they take unpopular action because they already expect to lose the House. Well, I got a bunch of stories pulled up. Let's read about what's going on, and I want to show some polling data as well as what's going to happen with the House and why impeachment may be a priority. It could just be a last-ditch effort regardless of anything else. But we have this story from Politico. House Judiciary Panel preparing vote to define Trump impeachment probe. We're also hearing from the Washington Post. Judiciary Panel to activate rare impeachment time authorities, highlighting divide in Chamber's endgame. And there is something else interesting. Ocasio-Cortez is demanding impeachment due to something Trump did in the springtime where he stayed at one of his own resorts. We'll read this and try and break down what's actually happening. Let's start with Politico. Now, before we do, head over to timcast.com/donate in order to support my work. There is a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address you can send things to. The best thing you can do is share this video. I'm competing with the YouTube algorithm. They're propping up CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and they're deranking independent political commentary. If I'm going to be successful in doing this, if you think my content is good, then I need you guys to share it. And if you don't think it should be shared, so be it. I don't deserve it anyway. Let's read the news. Politico reports, House Judiciary Panel preparing vote to define Trump impeachment probe. Dems hope that explicitly defining their impeachment inquiry will strengthen their leverage to compel testimony from witnesses. I just want it to stop. I'm sorry. I know I already opined a bit, but I'm just so sick of this. I don't care. But we should see what they're planning. So they say the panel could vote as early as Wednesday on a resolution to spell out the parameters of its investigation. The precise language is still being hammered out inside the committee, and with House leaders, a draft of the resolution is expected to be released Monday morning. The issue was raised Friday during a conference call among the committee's Democrats. A source familiar with the discussion said any move next week would be intended to increase the officialness of the ongoing probe. following a 6-week summer recess in which some Democrats struggled to characterize to their constituents that the House had already begun impeachment proceedings. Democrats are hopeful that explicitly defining their impeachment inquiry will heighten their leverage to compel testimony from witnesses. Though the language of the resolution is still in flux, some sources said it could incorporate elements of traditional impeachment probes, such as offering access to the president's attorneys or providing for more time to question witnesses. There was discussion among some Democrats on Friday's call about the strength of the language in the resolution, according to sources briefed on the call. So, you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like they have no idea why they want to impeach the president. So they're like, let's just, investigate and activate rare impeachment time authorities so that we can scrape the bottom of the barrel until wood chips start flying out. Look, man, Trump may have done something wrong. We've got a story here about him staying at his own resort, something to that effect. We'll read it. The problem is they've beaten the dead horse so much, I just don't care. And maybe that's a bad thing. But it's their own fault. After 3 years of Russiagate and Rachel Maddow and this insane nonsense and getting nothing done, I just don't care. 2020 is around the corner. Please prioritize policy positions that will get people on board with your platform. I gotta say, man, not a day goes by I don't love Tulsi Gabbard more and more and more. She put out a video saying free speech, civil rights, and no political correctness. She's challenged big tech. Big tech. She's anti-war. She is anti-private prisons. And you know what? You know why I'm bringing her up right now? It's not arbitrary. She's calling them out. Thank you. Thank you. Impeachment would only tear U.S. apart, and she's right. This is what leadership looks like to me. Somebody who's clearly on the other side of Trump's aisle saying, why are we doing this? And I agree. I gotta say, man, when I saw the impeachment stuff, my eyes roll so fast I faint from dizziness. And then I see this about, Tulsi Gabbard stepping up on principle and saying, it's only gonna tear us apart. She's right. Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. And I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi. I can disagree with Pelosi and even Tulsi on many political positions. But this is principle to me. The impeachment stuff is a waste of time. Don't take my word for it. Majority wants Trump out, but not through impeachment. The latest poll only a couple weeks ago, okay? So why can't we move forward and talk about what people in this country really want? Yesterday's video was me talking about how Ocasio-Cortez is leading the Democrats down a path that no one likes. Okay, the example I give, when the Democratic debates aired on CNN, they got 10 million views. In fact, Tulsi Gabbard was the most searched for candidate afterwards. Amazing. When they did the climate change town hall, they were last in ratings. So I get it. Climate change is a serious issue. Take it from me. I've worked for several environmental organizations, okay? But most people do not care about this. So even if you think it's the right thing to do, you need to talk to the American people about things they care about. The Democrats aren't doing that because they're following Ocasio-Cortez, and the media keeps giving her attention. It's a mistake. This is a good example. Ocasio-Cortez has called for impeachment. And of course, the Democrats are charging away. Nancy Pelosi goes to battle against the squad for various things, saying telling them to calm down, stop with the tweets, saying impeachment is a bad idea. Well, AOC is clearly on the impeachment side, a more extreme and divisive platform. So here's what we're going to do. Look, I don't need to read through the polls. You get it. A couple weeks ago, the American people said no. And I've talked about it. I want to read about why Ocasio-Cortez thinks Trump should be impeached. And I want to read about what Trump did with this Scottish resort. And after that, we'll come back to Tulsi Gabbard. The New York Post reports Ocasio-Cortez has issued a fresh call to impeach President Trump amid reports of a House investigation into a military stop at his Scottish golf club. The president is corrupt and must be impeached, the freshman Democrat posted on Twitter Friday. The tweet was a response to news that a U.S. military aircrew slept over at Trump's Turnberry Golf Resort in Scotland earlier this year, fueling Democrat suspicions that he is profiting from government use of his properties. Okay, hold on. Calling for impeachment is a bit preemptive, AOC. And I gotta say, even if it's true, he did, for whatever reason he stayed there. If it's true, I'll pull up the story. Then an investigation, fine. Here's the thing, though. A lot of people were upset that, Pence stayed at a Trump resort. Is it profiting Trump, or is Trump offering a discount? You know what I mean? So anyway, here's the thing. There's the emoluments clause. There's, Trump's not supposed to be profiting off of his presidency. I wholeheartedly agree. He should not be doing that. So an investigation, it makes sense to an extent. Just because Trump is a businessman and owns property doesn't mean any time anyone stays there, it's nefarious. In fact, we could make the inverse assumption, and you could say Trump's business loses money by offering a discount. I'm not trying to defend the president over this. I'm just saying we have no idea. So I think, okay, fine. Investigate, and let's make sure the president isn't trying to enrich himself through the office. I hope that's fair. It sounds fair to me. But to outright call for impeachment just because you heard this is the problem. Ocasio-Cortez routinely jumps the gun and says outrageous things, and then Democrats just march behind her gleefully as she, like I said the other day, she's like the Pied Piper leading them all into the ocean. Look, man, I don't want a corrupt president, but I will tell you this. All of this stuff is a sideshow. And I gotta say this, even if it's true he enriched himself in this way, well, I will be quite perturbed by that. And I still think the appropriate way to win is not to push forward unpopular positions like an impeachment inquiry, and to instead use your time to win. I guess the Democrats think they're going to lose. Seriously. I think the Democrats are so convinced they're going to lose, they're like, last-ditch Hail Mary, just go for it. Let's see what Tulsi Gabbard had to say, and then I want to talk about the potential for the Republicans reclaiming the House in 2020. Rep. Tulsi, it's from the Hill. Tulsi Gabbard said in a new interview that she opposes an effort by dozens of House Democrats for an impeachment inquiry into the president, saying it would cause further divisions within the U.S. In an interview on Full Court Press with Greta Van Susteren, the 2020 candidate for president took a firm stance against impeachment, putting her at odds with other Democratic candidates for president, including Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren. I don't support impeachment, Gabbard said. I think it's important for us to think about what is in the best interest of the country and the American people, and continuing to pursue impeachment is something that I think will only further to tear our country apart. Make no bones about it. We need to defeat Donald Trump. But I think it's important for our country's sake and our future that the voters in this country are the ones who do that, and I believe that we will. Bravo. You see, aren't I right in saying Tulsi Gabbard is, aren't I right in choosing her on the Democratic side? I gotta say, man, look, there are a lot of people who try to act like I'm conservative, even conservatives, simply because I don't make videos where I screech about all of my political opinions. But Tulsi Gabbard's anti-war position, this is proof of her principle. She is correct. She is a good leader. I gotta say, I can fawn over her all day and night, but you get it, right? Think about all the Democrats who are talking about what we should be focusing on. She's defending the rights of even conservatives to have free speech, maybe even to her own detriment, people who would never vote for her. That is leadership. She is saying impeachment is a bad idea. That is leadership. I don't want to make this a pro-Tulsi Gabbard video. You get the point. There are some people on the Democratic side who can see reality and say this is a bad idea. Americans don't want this, okay? Even moderates don't want it. But let's read about, let's move on. The story about Trump, and I do want to highlight this just so we can get a little bit of context about Trump and this Air Force stop. Here's the story, at least the gist of it, from Politico. They say, Air Force crew made an odd stop on a routine trip. Trump's Scottish resort. In early spring of this year, an Air National Guard crew made a routine trip from the U.S. to Kuwait to deliver supplies. What wasn't routine was where the crew stopped along the way, and that's Trump's Turnberry Resort, about 50 miles outside of Glasgow. Since April, the House Oversight Committee has been investigating why the crew of the C-17 military transport plane made the unusual stay, both en route to the Middle East and on the way back at the luxury waterside resort, according to several people familiar with the incident, but they have yet to receive any answers from the Pentagon. I'm curious if they would care if they stopped at any resort at all. I'm curious if Trump charged any money at all. So that's why I think an investigation makes sense. If it is unusual, which again, I don't really know if it is, because I don't have a track record of researching every military stop for every trip. And it's possible that a lot of these stories are only highlighted now because the left is looking for something to attack Trump with. Is Trump doing something that other people didn't? Honestly, look at it this way. Obama deported, I could be wrong about this, so fact check me, but my understanding is Obama deported more people in his first year than Trump did in his second year. Wait, no. In his second year. than Obama did. Yet people act like Trump is doing something outrageous. Obama detained kids in these same facilities. They act like Trump is unique in doing this. Obama did a lot of things they act like never happened. That's why I don't necessarily trust this. But I gotta admit, I'm totally fine with investigations within reason, to figure out what's going on. But that's the gist of the story. If it turns out Trump is trying to enrich himself, then good, we will vote him out. And I completely agree with Tulsi. It's just a reason for us to say, okay, maybe we don't want to vote for this guy. But that's one of the strategies the Democrats have. Not that they actually intend to impeach the president, but that what they're saying is by investigating, they can present potential damning information that will hurt Trump. So let's move on. I'm not going to read through this necessarily. I highlighted this because it's the latest polls, and we can see that Biden is leading the pack. But once again, to show the divide in the Democratic Party. I don't think it's necessarily as important, but I wanted to throw it in there just to mention that Bernie Sanders and Warren are kind of split, with Biden taking the front runner position. It's just more of what we already know. But it's, the point I'm trying to present once again is that AOC and these impeachment left and the far left don't represent what most Americans want. I want to just briefly mention this story. Republicans moved to nix primaries in show of support for Trump as a counterpoint to what I just showed. Republicans are coalescing around the party of Trump. Many people have emerged to try and challenge him on the Republican side, so several states are preparing to get rid of their primaries outright to prevent anyone from challenging Donald Trump as the incumbent. This shows there's two different things. It's the inversion of what we see in the Democratic Party. That's the best way to put it. Republicans coming together to defend Trump, whereas on the Democrat side, everything is fractured and falling apart. But here's the big question. The question as to why they would do it. Well, one of the reasons is they probably will lose the House and then no longer have any opportunity to do anything at all, which means they have to act now. In this story from NPR a couple days ago, they say GOP retirement spike, diminishing hope of retaking House majority in 2020. It may be that Republicans have lost too many people. The general idea I've heard, I did a video about this on my second channel, is that a lot of Republicans don't want to be in the minority because it's just a difficult and losing position. Well, that's a shame. Okay, you don't win the majority by bowing out because you're losing. That's being a sore loser and a fair weather politician. If you really believe in what you believe, stick around and fight, and maybe the Republicans will reclaim the House. This is bad news for the Republicans. But whether or not that has any impact, here's a story I want to highlight from June. Rumblings from Trump's base could shape Democrats' choice for 2020. The story says, President Donald Trump's political base may not be as impregnable as commonly assumed. And that could have big implications not only for the Democrats' strategy against Trump in 2020, but also for their choice of a presidential nominee. Detailed new research by the Democratic voter targeting firm Catalyst found that the party's big gains in the 2018 congressional election were fueled not only by unusually high turnout among voters sympathetic to the party, but also by larger than expected defections from the GOP among voters who had backed Trump 2 years earlier. I highlight these two stories because they're presumed negatives. And that's probably a fair assessment. If Republicans are retiring and voters are defecting, sounds like all around bad news for Trump. However, I've noticed that many Trump supporters view this as Trump taking over the party, that the old Republican Party establishment is gone, and now this is the party of Trump. This was highlighted when Trump showed a meme, I believe Trump showed a meme, where the symbol was not an elephant, but a lion. And the lion was then called, fascist or something. I don't know. Everything he does is called fascist, whatever. But it was pointed out that the reason they used a lion was because Trump has changed the Republican Party to something different. And I think both sides agree. The left claims he's taken it over and he's turned fascist, and never Trumper GOP people are saying something similar. I don't know. The point is, things are changing. Many of these defections may be old school establishment types, people who don't like the populist message, I guess going for a Democrat or going independent. You could say the same thing for the Democrats, though, because they're absolutely fractured. However, this might actually be good news for Republicans in 2020, because although you're seeing defections from the GOP, Trump did a really good job of igniting new voters or people who've never voted before. It's entirely possible, as I mentioned, I don't have the story pulled up, many of the people who voted for Trump in 2016 did not come out in 2018 because they don't care for establishment Republicans. Combine these two stories, what do you get? New pro-Trump Republicans emerge to run against these Democrats, and that will awaken Trump's base. So let me clarify. These retirements, the 15 or so from the Republican side in the House, may be, some of them at least, old school establishment Republicans that Trump voters don't care about. But what happens when new Republicans run on the Trump message? Well, now those Trump voters come out to vote, meaning could be victory for those candidates on that alone as new blood. However, it could also be that it's just the power of Trump. People come out to vote for Trump, they don't care about anything else, and they just draw a straight line down Republican on the ballot, which gets whoever runs a huge advantage. It's hard to know for sure. I don't know if this is good or bad. I think it's a fair assessment to say this is all really bad news for Trump. But as I've pointed out, it could actually be good news because Trump's voters are new to the party. And that may be why they're pushing so hard for impeachment right now. While they have the House, it's their only time is now. I really do believe, based on the actions the Democrats are taking, they're preparing for a defeat, a resounding defeat. So they're just like, gun it, go for it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this, okay? Impeachment is not popular. It is bad news for them. It's going to hurt them in 2020. But if they were resigned to defeat already, then they wouldn't care if it's going to hurt them. They're just going to do whatever they can now as a last-ditch effort. But I guess we'll see what happens. I can only really say, in the end, that boy, isn't Tulsi Gabbard great. She has defended civil rights, free speech. She's called out these wars. She has actively tried to meet with people. Look what happens. Tulsi Gabbard met with Assad, and they smear her to no end. Trump meets with Kim Jong-un. They smear him to no end. I can't say what they did was a net benefit or is going to work out. But you can see that there are people who act on principle. It's mind-blowing to me how they smear Trump for meeting with Kim Jong-un, saying he's playing up the dictators. We need peace, okay? We're not the world's police. We shouldn't, we don't want North Korea to have nukes. But what do? Sit around doing nothing and just antagonize? Trump crossed into the DMZ, and to me, with my family history, for those that don't know, I'm part Korean, that was profound and amazing. I seriously, I was surprised. Because even if it doesn't work out, at least he tried. Now they accuse him of doing a PR stunt, but they do the same thing with Tulsi. And then when it comes to impeachment, Tulsi points out the obvious. Americans don't want this, and they smear her again. I think you can see where my politics are. It's kind of obvious, right? There is an establishment authoritarian, and there is a populist side. And I'm falling very obviously on the populist libertarian spectrum of whatever's going on. Though my politics lean left, it should be plain and simple to anybody why I am a fan of Tulsi and why I understand people are fans of Trump and why the establishment is angry with efforts to end war because they love it. It's the industry they love. I'll leave it there. Impeachment, bad idea. But stick around. Next segment will be coming up at youtube.com/TimCastNews, 6 p.m., and I will see you all then.